Hello everyone and welcome to my May wrap-up. I have not made many videos this month, and that is because I've had a very challenging month mentally and it's just been very hard for me to read or make content. So this week I am going to do my May wrap-up, and then I'm also going to do probably like a follow me on a self-care day. I think I'm going to do that Wednesday if I'm not working. But basically I've been working a ton lately, like I've just been at work all the time. So it's been very hard for me to make videos because I'm just either super busy at work or I'm super tired because I just left work. So I haven't been reading as much. I got a couple books done in the past week because I just took some time and was like, I really need to read. I need to take some time to myself. So I still have, I think, enough books on my list to do a reading wrap up. So if there's like not as much content for the next couple of weeks, you'll know why. It's just because I work a lot and I've just been struggling mentally lately, and that's okay. I just can't be doing videos all the time, which is fine. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this video. So the first book that I read in May was Pretty Girls by Karin Slaughter. I ended up giving it a 4.5 out of 5. It was very close to a 5 out of 5 for me, but I had some issues with the ending and some of the twists were a little predictable. But overall, I really liked it. I found Karin Slaughter's writing very intriguing and very I was on the edge of my seat the entire time. I wanted to know more about these characters, and it was such an alternating and interesting story, and with two really opposing characters as our two main female protagonists, that it was just super interesting to read and I really enjoyed it. So I'm really glad I ended up reading that, because it also got me into my thriller kick for this month, because most of the books that I've read were thrillers, and yeah, so I am now really into reading horror and thriller at the moment. So thank you to Karin Slaughter for getting me on that kick. But yeah, it was a really good book. It was about two sisters who, one sister finds out her husband gets killed at the beginning of the book, and then she finds some stuff in his study and finds out things might not be as they seem. And this other sister who's struggling and with getting over drug addiction and just struggling in life in general, ends up being reintroduced into her life and helping her uncover all the secrets that her husband kept from her, and it leads into a really, really interesting mystery and thriller, and it's very gruesome and dark. And if you don't like sexual violence and if you don't like violence against women, I do not recommend this book because it is very graphic. But if you are okay with those things, not really okay with those things, but if you can read them, it is a really, really good book. So I highly recommend it. The second book I read this month was This Is Not a Test by Courtney Summers. This book is about a group of teenagers trapped in a high school gymnasium during a zombie apocalypse, but there's a lot more going on. So I thought this book was basically just about a zombie apocalypse and these students surviving, but it's actually a lot more of a story about the importance of communication, how abuse can devastate a life, and just everyone has a story. And it was a really good book, but unfortunately with the mental state that I've been in, I could not finish it. I had to DNF it, but I was really, really liking it, so I might pick it up again when I'm feeling better. But it was a really good book. It was really well written. It made you really feel for all these characters, and with the twists that kept coming in about what they had actually done or what they were going through in their personal lives, it just made it really intriguing. These characters were really strong. So I would like to finish it one day, but just right now I'm just not in the headspace where I can read a really mentally intense book like that. But it is really good. I did give it a 4 out of 5 even though I DNF'd it, but I highly recommend it. The third book I read this month was Misery by Stephen King, and I gave this book a 5 out of 5, and it is now on my favorite shelf. I loved this book, especially as someone with a love-hate relationship with Stephen King. There's been books of his that I read that I hated, and there's been books of his that I read that I loved, and this is one of the ones that I loved. So basically, if you don't know the story of Misery, it is about an author who gets in a car crash and is taken in by a fan who is taking care of him until he gets better and some gruesome shit happens. And it is very good. I have heard a lot of complaints saying this is like a more boring Stephen King book, but I found it thrilling. Like, I found it to be like a really interesting, almost character study, and just have like such a deep, like, terrifying impact, because like I find Stephen King's supernatural books can be way too far-fetched for even me to like them, but this was very like settled in reality, and it was really enjoyable and I loved it. I highly recommend this book to anyone who likes thrillers, anyone who likes crime, like that kind of stuff, if you're okay with some gruesome ass scenes, because this book gets pretty intense. But I loved it. It was my favorite book this month by far, and I've had a really good reading month, so wow. The fourth book I read this month was a switch up from my thriller for the past 3 books, was Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I had been waiting for this book to come out for a while. I was really excited about it, and I gave it a 4 out of 5 in the end, and that was just because I had some issues with how the book ended. It felt very rushed to me, especially after like such a long build-up. It was a long book. So like after such a long build-up and just the way it ended, the ending felt a bit rushed. I wish, with how it ended, I wish it would have been explored a bit more. So basically this book is about a lab scientist, or a scientist who wakes up with no memory in the middle of space, and as he begins to explore his surroundings, he begins to remember how he got in this situation and how the Earth back home is in complete disrepair, and that he has been sent on a one-way mission to save the world. So this book was really good. It had a lot of really funny moments. It had a lot of really wholesome moments. I won't get into any spoilers, but there is a character in this book. I was trying to think if I should call him a character, but my heart and soul. So if you've read this book, you probably know what I'm talking about, but I highly recommend it. It is very scientific. It is very science heavy, which was another reason I bumped it down 1 point, just for my enjoyment. I don't know much about science. I know quite a bit about chemistry because I really like chemistry, but like when it got into like the geological, like this is how this rock forms and like that kind of stuff, and like the way physics works in space, I was just like, I don't understand. But I still really enjoyed it. I thought the story was great. I thought there were a lot of really like touching moments. There was definitely some issues with emotion. I found it very hard to feel anything other than amusement from our main character. He was very sarcastic and witty, which I was okay with, but when it came to like the deeper moments of him uncovering like such horrible things, he would usually make a joke, and I just didn't find it appropriate for that moment, even though I do that all the time, but it just didn't work in a literary stance. And so I still really enjoyed the book, but I did have a few problems with it. The last book I read this month was I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid, I think is the author. I didn't have it written down, unfortunately, but this is the last book that I read this month, and I listened to it in an audiobook because that is how I'm reading books currently, because I work a lot and I can't read books in a very loud work environment, so I'm listening to them, and that has been a lot easier. But I'm Thinking of Ending Things was a very weird book for me. My rating ranges between a 3.5 to a 4.5. I'm not decided because I still can't tell if I love, like absolutely adore the ending, or if I absolutely despise it. Because the ending is very weird, and it kind of like, I could never read this book again. I don't think. Either that or I could read this book again and really enjoy it, knowing how the ending is and knowing what really happened. But this book is very hard to explain. It's basically about a guy and his girlfriend who go on a trip to his parents' farm, and things aren't as they seem, and there's like a lot of weird stuff. And I hate that in every like synopsis that I read that it says they get trapped in a secluded high school, because that doesn't, like, that's not the main part of the story. That doesn't even happen until the very, very like last 10 minutes of the audiobook. But it was good. Like, it was good. But see, there was a point in the book where I was like, nothing's really happening. And then the audiobook was sometimes the scariest things of all are just normal life things, and when nothing really dramatic happens, and I was like, okay, that's what you're going for. I was still genuinely creeped out by a lot of things, but like with how it ended, I was just like, that kind of invalidates the weirdness of the experience. It's still weird, and I still like it. I think I'm gonna do a deep dive analysis on this one and Misery at some point, where I analyze the show and the movie, and I analyze the book beside it, and just share my actual feelings on it rather than discuss it here, because I have a lot of thoughts on I'm thinking of ending things, and I feel like it'd be a really niche but also very fun video for me because I like doing book analysis. So currently I am reading It by Stephen King. I'm listening to that on audiobook. It is a long ass audiobook. So I'm listening to it at work. I was listening to it while I was doing my makeup this morning. I'm gonna listen to it more at work today because I work in an hour, I think. And I'm only 3 chapters into that. I think I'm on 6 calls or something, and I have mixed feelings so far. This is seeming like one of the Stephen King books that I won't end up liking. Stephen King has issues with how he talks about women and how he talks about gay people, and sometimes it makes me very uncomfortable, and I understand that it's his characters thinking that and not him, because I've seen his support for trans people against like J.K. Rowling and stuff like that, but it makes me uncomfortable, like seeing characters say those things. So, especially in an audiobook, because I can't just skim over it, like, I have to listen to what they're saying. So, I'm undecided on if I'm going to keep going with this book, but I think I'm about like close to 3 hours in now, and it's pretty good. Like, I'm enjoying it. I just need to figure out how I feel. So yeah, that is what I'm reading currently right now. I'm planning on reading also, I think it's Shadow of the Gods in June, and because I think that came out this month, and I'm really excited about that book, and I can't wait to read it, because it's a really interesting Viking fantasy book, which is right up my alley. So I'm really excited about that, and I can't wait to get into June, my birth month, and like make some fun videos for you guys. I'm gonna try and make some more analytical videos, some more reading vlogs. I'm gonna do a self-care vlog on Wednesday if I'm not working, because I think I might be working now. So hopefully not, or hopefully I do. Money is nice, but that's all for this video. Like, I didn't have a very good reading month. I didn't read a lot, but I really enjoyed the books that I did read because I really needed like that time as a break. So I hope you all had a good month of May, and I hope you all have a good month of June as well. And thank you all for watching, and stay safe. Bye.